Hi everyone, welcome to the breakout session, Getting Started with Social Emotional Learning. It's great to have you. My name is Hannah Larkin and I am the Director of Instructional Content at BetterLesson. And before I joined BetterLesson, I worked at a high school in Boston for 10 years. I was a ninth grade humanities teacher for several years, and then most recently I was the principal for the last 3.5 years there. Certainly from my time in a school, I learned how important social emotional learning was. And it was something I felt very passionately about, but definitely did not always know, either as a teacher or as an administrator, sort of how to get started building social emotional learning in a meaningful way into my classroom or my school. And so my guess is that if you're here, you feel similarly. So that's a little bit about me. The first thing we're going to do today is we're going to define exactly what we mean by social emotional learning. And if you follow education news at all, you've probably seen headlines similar to these on the right, getting at essentially more and more research that shows that social emotional learning is really important for kids, and that actually as educators, we have an incredibly powerful possible impact to help build those skills in students. And so if you chose this session, you probably similarly have sort of bought into the idea that social emotional learning is important, but you're looking for ideas of how to actually support it. And so that's the goal for our time today. So the challenge we have ahead of us, our goal obviously is to support social emotional learning and have success in your classroom. And so what we're going to do is we're going to sort of first break that down a little bit into the different categories that go into social emotional learning. And then you'll have a chance to explore some specific strategies and some resources that will help you address this challenge in your classroom. So going to the next slide here. When you think about what we mean by social emotional learning, it takes a variety of aspects. You've heard non-cognitive skills, growth mindset, emotional regulation, healthy relationships, self-awareness, self-management, responsible relationship building, grit. You've probably heard all of these terms. And so this list here is our attempt to simplify all of the things that go into social emotional learning into these sort of 5 categories of possible student growth. And so just to run through these quickly, the first one is that we want students to be able to build and maintain strong and healthy relationships, both with peers and with adults. And this is all about getting to know one another, being able to listen actively, asking good questions of one another, having difficult or restorative conversations, having collaborative conversations. And so that all sort of goes into this bucket of strong and healthy relationships. Second is we want students to cultivate a growth mindset and demonstrate self-confidence and self-efficacy. And this really gets at the student belief that they can achieve great things and improve with hard work. And obviously that's an important skill for students to have, not just in the classroom, but also beyond in their future lives and careers. The third is that we want students to be able to set and work towards both short and long-term personal and academic goals. This gets at the idea of students taking ownership over their own learning and being able to have that sort of sense of autonomy in what they want to achieve and setting a plan for being able to get there. Number 4 is we want students to be able to identify and effectively regulate their own emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Anyone who's taught obviously knows the importance of this in the classroom, but it's also a skill that we hope students will carry out into their world beyond the classroom. And finally, we want students to be able to make responsible decisions, and that means that they can analyze situations and evaluate the consequences of different actions in order to make those responsible decisions. So, right off the bat, some of these may be jumping out to you, and that's great. And you may feel like this is a lot, and that's also true. And so what we're going to do next is sort of break this down and get really concrete and actionable and look at some strategies that align with these principles. So the rest of this breakout session, you're going to spend about 10 to 12 minutes looking at a collection of strategies that align with embedding social emotional learning in your classroom. And so as you dig into these, you're going to take notes on what you read, and then you're going to have an opportunity to share these back with the rest of the people in your breakout session. So it'll be like a sort of digital jigsaw. And so if you look at your breakout session board here, there's a link to the HyperDoc pathway. And if you click on that link, this document here will come up, and I'll show you that in a second. One thing to note is that, oops, sorry, wrong one. Looking at this, each of these columns is a different strategy, and you can see the strategy title up here, that's the blue hyperlink, and those links go back into the lab. So if you want to see the full description of the strategy, you should click there, it'll take you back into the version in the lab. In parentheses next to each strategy is the growth area or the category that I think this strategy is most aligned to. You could make an argument for each of these that they're sort of tied to all of those growth areas, but I think that these are sort of the strongest ones. So if there was a specific category that really was appealing to you to work in, like if you're really interested in working on relationship building, then you should look for the strategies that have a 1 next to their title, because those will be a little bit more aligned. Underneath each one, there's a quick description so that you can get a sense of what they're all about. What I'd like you to do right now is I'd like you to read through these 9 descriptions and pick one strategy that you're particularly interested in diving into. If it draws your attention, if you want to learn more, if you're curious about this strategy, go ahead and put your initials down in this box next to I want to dig into this strategy. It's okay if more than one person signs up for a given strategy, but hopefully we can get at least one person for each strategy here. Take a moment, look through these, and then once you've all chosen the strategy that you want to read about, someone in the group should set a timer for about 10 to 12 minutes. And during that time, you want to read through the strategy and take notes as you go. So you can take notes right here in this box, and you can also make note if you have any questions. These notes are going to guide you when you're sharing the strategy back to the group, and the questions are ones that you can bring back to your group or that you can bring back to your coach if your group isn't able to answer them. And so this is really pretty open in terms of what you're recording. It could be some aha moments, it could be something you want to learn more about, or it could just be something that you found really exciting or something you learned that you want to share back to the group. And then after the timer goes off for the 10 to 12 minutes, you'll take turns sharing out what you learned with the rest of the group. And then when you're done with that, the final piece will be going back to this breakout board and clicking on the link for the exit ticket, and just take a couple minutes right at the end to answer this exit ticket before you leave this breakout session and go back to the whole group. I hope you have fun diving in, and I look forward to seeing what you find exciting. Thanks so much.